Hello, Awesome Soul here, and ever since we got the reveal trailer for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, there has been a lot of speculation around the very end clip. If you are somehow unaware, at the end of the trailer, it was shown off that there is going to be a brand new, never-before-seen Pokemon featured in this game. A game which otherwise only features the original 151 and their Alola forms. There are many different lines of thought as to what this could possibly be. Some I've seen around the internet, and others I've come up with by myself. Though I'm sure some people probably have the same opinions as I do, I just haven't actually seen them by other people. But anyways, what I'm here to do today is to sort of consolidate all of these ideas into one video and give my thoughts on which ones might have a little bit more credibility than others. Now obviously, I don't really mean credibility, as in, this is 100% proven fact, but it's more so my opinion on which ones don't really hold as much water as some of the other ones. Before I get into that though, I do want to highlight the fact that I have a brand new avatar that you've been seeing throughout the video. I'm sure many of you remember those fantastic Fakemon designs, the platypus, the rabbit, and the lemur. Well, I love them so much as well that I actually commissioned the creator of those to make some art for myself. It's not completely finished yet, but I couldn't wait any longer because it just looks so damn awesome. So, what I would highly recommend is go on over and follow 50 Shades of Heliolisk over on Twitter. The link will be down in the description. He makes very awesome art, so again, highly recommended. Please follow him and tell him I sent you. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into the list. The first thing that this Pokemon could possibly be would be Gorochu, sort of like a split evolution path. Now, the reason people even think this in the first place is because somewhat recently there was an interview done with people at the Pokemon Company, and they actually talked about some of the older designs, and one of which was Gorochu. They were saying that Pikachu originally was going to have a third evolution. Basically, in the original games, instead of ending its evolution at Raichu, it would have gone on further to Gorochu. The way they described it, it was Raichu, but with fangs and horns. Now, while I do think this is a really cool idea, and I would like to see this eventually happen, I don't think this is actually going to be the case. And let me tell you why. Well, from the original trailer, it seemed like we are only getting a single Pokemon, and that was later confirmed by an actual data mine of Pokemon Quest, of all things. Currently, the Pokedex sits at a total of 807 Pokemon, but in Pokemon Quest, there are Pokedex spaces for 808 Pokemon, meaning that we are only going to get one Pokemon. And since the box art Pokemon for this game are Pikachu, but also Eevee, this means that if the new Pokemon is in fact a Pikachu evolution, then really not many people are going to be incentivized to get the Eevee version, as nothing special will really be happening there. Then again, much like the original Yellow, the Pokemon you start out with, either Pikachu or Eevee in this case, is actually incapable of evolution, though it is stated that you will be able to get the Pokemon they evolve into through other means. Overall, I'd say this is one of the least likely ones. Sort of along the same path as the other one, we have the possibility of this being a Eevee evolution, or evolution. Now, while this does fall into the exact same pitfalls that the whole Pikachu-Gorochu thing had, I do actually think this has a slightly higher chance of happening. I still don't think this is what's happening, but it does have a slightly higher chance than us seeing a Pikachu evolution. Really, my main reasoning for this is because everybody loves Pikachu. Pikachu is the face of Pokemon, and if you have the second version being Eevee, not as many people know about Eevee. It's not quite a household name yet. And while the Pokemon Company have been heavily promoting Eevee, it's still definitely not to the levels of notoriety that Pikachu has. And because of that, I could see the Pokemon Company wanting to promote Eevee even more by giving it a special evolution in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. And also possibly Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Because remember, However, your Eevee, if you do choose to go with that version, won't actually evolve. So you will need to somehow find another Eevee in-game and then evolve it to this new evolution. Which, come to think of it, might actually be a bit of a negative, because it kind of cancels out that point I said before. Because if you could get an Eevee and evolve it in either version, then it's not really a big boost to popularity as far as the sales of the Eevee version go. Anyway, still overall I would say that it being an evolution of either Pikachu or Eevee, probably not that high, though we'll have to wait and see what happens in the new movie, as there is a trainer in there that has an Eevee, so maybe we'll get a surprise evolution there, who knows. One other possibility is it being an evolution or pre-evolution of another existing Kanto Pokemon. Overall though, I would have to say this is actually the least likely out of everything discussed in this video. Because if they just give it to some random Pokemon, it's not really going to be that marketable, now is it? Arguably, you've got the most popular Pokemon in Generation 1 being Pikachu, Eevee, Charizard, and Mewtwo. Mewtwo already has a lot of love with the 2 Mega Evolutions it got, and also Charizard got the exact same treatment. Not 1 Mega Evolution, but 2. I'd say that's plenty of love, at least for a little while. And we've already talked about Eevee and Pikachu, so who else could they possibly give an evolution to? I would say nobody else really jumps out in Gen 1, to be quite honest. Hence why I think this is the least likely of the options. And with that, we come to what is basically 2 points in one, and that is the possibility of this being a new Generation 7 or Generation 8 Pokemon. Now, there's a bit of debate in the community as to whether or not the Let's Go games are a Generation 7 game or a Generation 8 game. Personally, I would argue that they are still a Generation 7 game, especially since the whole brand new Pokemon mid-generation thing has been already broken wide open by Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where we were actually introduced to a handful of brand new Pokemon. Previous to that point, we've only really gotten new forms of existing Pokemon, mainly the legendaries, in the sequel games. And also, the way generations usually tend to start is not necessarily new hardware, but rather a new region with a huge amount of new Pokemon. That's how I tend to classify when new generations start. And plus, this is more of a spin-off anyway, though it seems the Pokemon Company themselves seem to flip-flop on what this game exactly is, so I don't really know. What I do know, though, is that this game, as previously mentioned, only features the first 151, plus this special Pokemon, and I guess the Alola forms as well. Anyways, if we boil this down, this is basically a brand new Pokemon, much like how we've seen Bonsly or Munchlax show up before their actual generations. Or it could simply be a Poipole kind of thing, where a Pokemon like Poipole did not actually exist in the initial launch of Generation 7, but it was added later on in another game within that generation. Regardless of whether this Pokemon is Gen 7 or Gen 8, the fact still remains that this is probably one of the more likely things we're going to see. And finally, the last point, and personally the one I think is most likely, is that this mystery Pokemon is going to be either a mythical or legendary Pokemon. Most likely a mythical, as usually legendary Pokemon are encountered within game, and mythical are more segregated to special events, such as getting it through a spin-off game, much like how Manaphy was given out. The reason I think this is most likely is because they want to drive up sales as much as possible. And the Pokemon Company know that these games are not necessarily directed at the hardcore fans. However, what would get the hardcore fans to play it is if they see a brand new mythical Pokemon in the game that they will eventually be able to transfer from the Let's Go games over to the upcoming Generation 8 games coming in 2019. This would be a really smart move on their part, as if they did that, the game would more or less appeal to pretty much everyone in the Pokemon fan base in some way or another. Of course, though, you still have to remember this is kind of, I don't know how to describe it, sort of like an arcadey, spin-off-y sort of thing. I guess just as a little aside, go into Pokemon Let's Go with a fun spin-off mindset. Though, if this is a mythical Pokemon, I think it might actually be a Generation 8 Pokemon. Also, one little bonus point I kind of just thought of is that the Pokemon Company might be trolling us, kind of, and maybe this brand new, never-before-seen Pokemon is just simply Zeraora, because we've known about this Pokemon's existence for quite some time now, and when the Pokemon Company finally officially revealed Zeraora, and, well, the comments on pretty much all of their social feeds consisted of people saying, "What? This isn't a new Pokemon, we've already known about this," and they might be doing the exact same thing. I mean, do I think this is the thing that's happening? Probably not, but it's just a little bit of a concern to me because Zeraora hasn't actually made its way into the games. Like, there's no official way yet of using Zeraora in the games. You can't actually own it in the games, rather. Because I know there was that Battle Spot video thing, I think that was it, where you could sort of watch the video and replay it using Zeraora and sort of use its moveset. Anyways, finally wrapping up my thoughts on this, I think that this is probably unlikely, but again, we haven't actually gotten our hands on Zeraora, so maybe this reveal is simply giving us access to Zeraora in-game. And if that's the case, well, I would be a little disappointed. I'm sure many other people would be quite disappointed too. Maybe I'm getting a little bit too paranoid here, but I think this might actually have a high chance of happening. So just make sure you temper your expectations for this new, never-before-seen Pokemon. But what do you think this could possibly be? Could it be any of the things I've listed here, or is it something brand new that I have yet to talk about? Leave your comments for me down below. I'd love to hear what you think. And with that, I of course have been the Awesome Soul. I thank you all so very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.